Dr. Anthony Fauci could be in real legal hot water. That's not just according to Senator Rand Paul or right-wing pundits, but according to a former counsel under Barack Obama's Defense Department. That's right, a New York University law professor named Ryan Goodman has just revealed that Fauci may have screwed himself by claiming the Fifth Amendment protections over 100 times during his tense hearing on Capitol Hill on Wednesday. And so the guest who was on CNN, he laid out his argument that Fauci very well may be in real trouble.
112 times to invoke the Fifth Amendment. I mean, you can't even string all that together. That obviously, it sends a message. Will that strategy work? Because he says, well, I had to do that because, they're looking for perjury traps. Or does that just make it worse, and is he in real trouble?
I think it makes it worse. It's even a curious way in which you wonder what his legal advice was, why they decided to do that. Yeah. Because he does not face criminal jeopardy for the pardon in all likelihood. He's pardoned for all actions before January 2025. But that also means that you're forced to testify. That's how prosecutors use immunity or pardons, and they say now you're forced to testify because you don't have any criminal liability, what we're going to ask you about. So then to plead the Fifth is actually, he could then be held in contempt. There could be, theoretically at least, a Justice Department that goes after him for not answering when he is not really facing that criminal charge.
Yeah, and also when the reason put out is perjury traps, then of course, again, to the layperson, it's just saying, well, why wouldn't you just say the truth? What would be the problem in that? Yeah. So, I understand that's a layperson thing, but it doesn't sound good.
Now, as I explained on Red State, there are a number of Supreme Court cases that suggest that Fauci was not entitled to Fifth Amendment protections. One of them being Brown v. Walker, an 1896 Supreme Court case that showed that the Fifth Amendment does not protect those who have been pardoned and therefore are immune to prosecution. That's because the Fifth Amendment itself is regarding the ability for a witness to protect himself from self-incrimination. And there are a number of other cases, such as Burdick v. United States, and that was a case involving a witness who had been granted a pardon by former President Woodrow Wilson, and he actually rejected the pardon. And the fascinating thing about all of this is because the editor of a newspaper didn't want the pardon, didn't want to be compelled to testify, and didn't want to be a witness against his sources. And this was an interesting case in part because the rejected pardon itself was believed by some to be not just a credit to the editor, but something that prevented him from being accused of being guilty. So we have to wonder why Dr. Anthony Fauci was even granted a pardon by Joe Biden's auto pen. We don't even know if this holds up in court. President Donald Trump, interestingly, suggested that Biden's pardon was legitimate. He did not weigh in on that decisively, but it still was a fascinating statement.
Mr. President, do you think that the DOJ should reopen the investigation into the auto pen, specifically pertaining to Fauci?
Well, the only thing you can really think about is the auto pen, because the most powerful thing the president has, they say, is the power of pardon. So he was pardoned by Biden, and I respect that. I know how powerful it is. It's a very powerful, they say it's literally the most powerful thing a president has.
So why did Fauci take the pardon? It goes all the way back to 2014. Now, why would he need that? Because gain-of-function research was definitely taking place in the world back then. There was a moratorium put on it by Congress because of this risky dual-use research. And as we know, Fauci funded the Wuhan laboratory through EcoHealth Alliance and Peter Daszak. And the Chinese military very much sniffed out what the research was that was happening at the Wuhan laboratory. They stockpiled PPEs. They had advance notice, and then they didn't even warn the world in an appropriate time frame about the detection of a virus in the vicinity of the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So the things that happened on the watch of Dr. Anthony Fauci are quite disgraceful. And even more so, we see that he may be in legal hot water. He may face some kind of justice. That can include, under U.S. statute for contempt of Congress, a hefty fine and a year in prison. So do you want to see this happen to Fauci? Should the Senate vote for criminal contempt of Congress charges next week, as Senator Rand Paul suggested? We always appreciate hearing from you at the Becker Brief.